2027. But here is the catch. And I'm trying to tell you why Peter Obi will lose the entire Southeast. Have you not heard of the slogan, Obi or nothing? First of all, that slogan is an abomination culturally in Igbo land. In Igbo land, there is something we call Somadina. Somadina means that I will not be the only person that will thrive. I will not be the only person that will succeed.
Kenneth Okonkwo has been one of the loudest voices against Peter Obi, calling him names, predicting his failure, and telling Nigerians confidently that the obedient movement is finished. But a major turn of events is now happening right in front of him, and if things continue going the way they are going, Kenneth Okonkwo will have no choice but to crawl out of his corner in shame. If you are new to this channel, subscribe and turn on your notifications. We break down Nigerian politics with depth and no sentiment. Now let us get into it. To understand this story fully, we need to go back to where Kenneth Okonkwo started, because this man did not always hate Peter Obi. In fact, Kenneth Okonkwo was one of the loudest and most visible supporters of the obedient movement during the 2023 election. He campaigned passionately for Obi. He went on television to defend him. He was one of the recognizable faces that gave the movement credibility beyond just social media noise. His Nollywood fame combined with his legal background made him a powerful voice for the campaign. But the moment Peter Obi left the Labour Party and moved to the ADC, and then eventually left the ADC for the NDC, something shifted inside Kenneth Okonkwo. He chose to stay in the ADC, and from that moment, the gloves came off completely. He called Peter Obi and Kwankwaso political conmen. He said they entered the ADC coalition with big talk about how it was the only way to send Tinubu packing, only to abandon the arrangement without any meaningful explanation. He accused them of leaving because they were afraid of open competition, afraid of facing other aspirants in a free and fair primary election. According to him, the NDC was nothing but an escape route for people who could not handle the heat of real political contest. He went even further and made a prediction that shook many people, especially the Igbo. He declared on national television that Peter Obi would lose the entire Southeast in 2027. He attacked the famous Obi or nothing slogan, calling it an abomination in Igbo land. He argued that it goes against the Igbo philosophy of Somadina, the idea that one person's success should not come at the expense of collective progress. He painted the entire obedient movement as a toxic cult of followers who were doing more harm than good to Obi's political ambition. He described Obi's supporters as street urchins. These were the very same people he once proudly stood among during the 2023 campaigns. The irony of all of this is something that should not be lost on anybody watching. Now here is where everything begins to fall apart for Kenneth Okonkwo. While he was busy on television making bold predictions and firing personal attacks, Peter Obi was quietly doing the work. He moved to the NDC alongside Kwankwaso. They went through a proper screening process. Obi himself addressed journalists after his screening and made something very clear. He dismissed any suggestion that he was going to be handed the ticket through a backdoor consensus arrangement. He said the party opened up the expression of interest forms for people to buy. He bought the form, and he was the only one who expressed interest. He called it democracy in action. That single statement said a lot about the kind of structure and transparency the NDC was trying to present to Nigerians. And then the NDC primaries happened, and the results were something to behold. Across the country, huge crowds turned out at NDC primary venues. Despite serious logistical challenges caused by the Eid el-Kabir holidays, which disrupted flights and transportation in many parts of the country, party members still showed up in remarkable numbers. The turnout was so significant that political observers began to describe it as one of the most powerful demonstrations of grassroots mobilization that any opposition party has put together ahead of the 2027 election cycle. This was not a rented crowd. These were people who came out on their own because they believe in the movement. The NDC leaders themselves described the successful conduct of the primaries as a major milestone in the steady growth of the party, as a formidable political force committed to credible leadership. And then came the announcement that changed everything. Peter Obi emerged as the NDC presidential candidate for the 2027 general election. And moments after being affirmed as the party's flag bearer, he made another announcement that sent shockwaves across the Nigerian political landscape. He named Rabiu Musa Kwankwaso as his running mate. The Obi Kwankwaso ticket is now official. The combination that many people talked about in whispers for months is now a reality. Now let us think carefully about what this ticket actually means and why it is so dangerous for every other candidate on the field. In 2023, Peter Obi ran under the Labour Party, a party with almost no governors, no strong legislative presence, very limited financial structure, and no serious political machinery outside of social media and the passion of young Nigerians. Despite all of those disadvantages, he pulled over 6 million votes. He won Lagos. He won Abuja. He won states that no Southeast candidate had ever won before in a presidential election. That result, as impressive as it was, still had one major gap: the North. Obi's northern numbers in 2023 were not strong enough to complement what he was getting from the South. That was the arithmetic that ultimately held him back. Kwankwaso fills that gap directly. Kwankwaso is not just a politician from the North, he is one of the most deeply rooted political figures that northern Nigeria has produced in modern times. The Kwankwasia movement, his political structure in Kano and beyond, is not a paper organization. It is a real ground-level movement with loyal followers who have proven time and again that they will vote the way Kwankwaso directs. In the 2023 election, Kwankwaso won 38 out of 44 local government areas in Kano State alone. That is not a small thing. Kano is one of the highest votes-producing states in Nigeria. If that kind of block now sits behind the Obi Kwankwaso ticket, the political calculation for every other candidate changes dramatically. Kenneth Okonkwo said the Igbo would not support Obi. But millions of people from the Southeast, the South-South, and across Nigeria have already moved with Obi to the NDC and are declaring their support openly. The movement has not collapsed. It has not scattered. If anything, it has grown more focused and more determined precisely because of all the attempts to discourage it. Now look at what Obi's competition is dealing with. The ADC, the party Kenneth Okonkwo is proudly defending and currently sitting inside is tearing itself apart. The just concluded ADC primaries produced a result that handed Atiku Abubakar the presidential ticket. But that result has not been accepted by everyone. Former Rivers State Governor Rotimi Amaechi has publicly refused to accept the outcome of those primaries. When a major figure inside your own party rejects your primary result openly, it means the internal wound is deep. A party going into a general election with that kind of unresolved crisis is a party that will be fighting on two fronts, at the same time fighting the opposition and fighting itself. The PDP situation is not much better. Goodluck Jonathan's name has been circulating as a possible candidate. But outside of the recognition that comes from being a former president, there is no visible energy behind him, no movement, no crowd excitement, no grassroots momentum. Just a familiar name being reintroduced into a political environment that has changed fundamentally since he last contested. Nigerian voters, particularly young voters, are not sentimental about former presidents. They are looking for solutions, not nostalgia. And then there is Bola Tinubu and the APC. Tinubu is heading into 2027, carrying a burden that no amount of campaign money can easily fix the lived experience of millions of Nigerians under his government. The removal of the fuel subsidy, the naira devaluation, the skyrocketing cost of food, the unemployment, the daily hardship that has touched almost every household in Nigeria, these are not things that people forget when they enter a polling booth. Every Nigerian who has struggled to feed their family, who has watched their purchasing power collapse, who has seen their business suffer, all of these people are carrying that experience into 2027. You do not need a sophisticated campaign to remind them. The suffering does the campaigning on its own. This is the environment that the Obi Kwankwaso ticket is stepping into. A fractured opposition on one side, a government weighed down by economic hardship on the other. And in the middle, a united platform with two of the most serious vote polling figures in Nigerian political history running together on the same ticket. The NDC is currently the only major opposition platform that is not visibly fighting itself from within. While others are dealing with rejected primary results, internal rebellions, and divided loyalties, the NDC primaries came and went with a level of organization and turnout that nobody expected from a relatively new party. Kenneth Okonkwo called Obi a weakling. He said the movement was finished. He said the Igbo would reject him. He said leaving the ADC was an act of cowardice. But the NDC primaries just answered every single one of those claims, loudly, clearly, and in front of the whole country. Now, I want to hear from you. Do you believe the Obi Kwankwaso ticket has what it truly takes to win in 2027? Drop your honest thoughts in the comment section below.